Let me ask you, what does success really mean to you? Not the surface level answers, not what society told you to chase. But deep down, when no one is watching, what does winning at life look like for you? Because the truth is, every single one of us has a picture in our minds of who we could be, who we should be, and what we were born to achieve. But here's the problem. Most people let that picture fade. They settle. They let distractions, comfort, excuses steal the life they were meant to live. But high achievers, they're different. They refuse to let that vision die. They become obsessed with it. They wake up thinking about it. They go to bed thinking about it. And every action, every choice, every sacrifice is guided by that vision. That's the difference between those who dream and those who do. Now, I want you to really hear this. Success is not about luck. It's not about talent. It's not even about intelligence. It's about mindset. It's about cultivating a fire inside of you so strong that nothing can put it out. And the people who reach extraordinary levels of success are not casual. They are not halfway in. They are all in. They're obsessed. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever looked at your life and thought, I know I'm capable of more, but I don't know how to get there, then this is your moment. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what separates the top 1% from the 99%. Not theories, not nice motivational slogans, but the real mindset shifts that high achievers live by. And if you lean in, if you stay with me until the end of this message, you won't just walk away inspired, you'll walk away with a blueprint, a way of thinking that can completely shift your life, your career, your relationships, your health, your entire destiny. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop playing small? Are you ready to let go of average and step into the mindset of obsession, the mindset of achievement, the mindset of success? Because if your answer is yes, what you're about to hear may just be the turning point of your life. Everything begins in the mind. Before the world ever sees your results, before anyone else recognizes your potential, it all starts inside of you. Every achievement, every breakthrough, every extraordinary leap forward was first created in thought. And here's the truth. If your mind can't see it, your hands will never build it. Success is not something you stumble into. It's something you decide on, obsess over, design internally before it ever becomes external. Most people underestimate the power of their own thoughts. They live as if their mind is just a place for random chatter, replaying the past, worrying about the future, doubting what they're capable of. And they wonder why their life doesn't change, but high achievers operate differently. They understand that the mind is the command center, the operating system that dictates everything else. They feed it the right instructions, they obsess over the right vision, and because of that, their reality bends to match it. Think about it. Every invention, every movement, every company, every empire that ever changed history started with someone holding a vision in their head long before it existed in the physical world. Airplanes existed in the imagination of the Wright brothers before they ever left the ground. Electric light was alive in Edison's mind long before it illuminated a single street. Your phone, the internet, everything that you think is normal today, it was once a crazy idea, a picture in someone's head, a thought that refused to die. Success always shows up in the mind first. But here's where most people get stuck. They want success. They say they want a better life, but the picture in their mind is blurry, uncertain, filled with doubt and hesitation. They tell themselves stories like, never be able to do that. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the connections. I don't have the resources. And those thoughts, those inner conversations, those limiting beliefs, they're like poison. They kill the dream before it even has a chance to breathe. You see, the world doesn't give you what you casually want. It reflects what you're absolutely certain about. If deep down you keep repeating failure in your mind, your actions will match it. If you keep visualizing obstacles instead of outcomes, you'll subconsciously create the very roadblocks you fear. But when you shift your focus, when you condition your mind to lock onto a vision with absolute clarity, something powerful happens. Your thoughts align, your emotions line up, your decisions sharpen, and suddenly the actions you take start pulling you toward that reality. Success doesn't start with strategies, tools, or tactics. It starts with a state of mind. Think about it. How many times have you known what you needed to do, but you didn't do it? It wasn't because you lacked information. It was because your mind wasn't aligned with the vision. Knowledge is useless without belief, and belief is useless without obsession. You obsess over a vision. When you see it so clearly that it feels more real than your current circumstances, you tap into a power that most people will never understand. That's why high achievers are relentless about what they allow into their mind. They don't entertain doubt. They don't surround themselves with negativity. They don't waste time consuming garbage that pollutes their thinking. They protect their mental space the way a warrior protects the gates of a fortress, because they know the wrong thought can derail the right vision. And the right vision, held with absolute conviction, can carry them through storms, setbacks, and struggles that would crush the average person. I want you to imagine something right now. Imagine your life 5 years from now. Not the life you think you can have if things go okay. Not the safe version of your dream, but the life you would create if there were no limits. The body you want, the income you want, the relationships you want, contribution you want to make, the lifestyle you want to experience. Get that picture in your head. Now let me ask you, how often do you think about that version of yourself? How often do you live from that place? Are you letting the noise of the world, the doubt of your past, And the weight of your current circumstances dictate what you see. The reality is most people spend more time thinking about what they fear than what they desire. They rehearse worst case scenarios in their minds until they convince themselves it's safer to stay the same than to reach for something greater. That's why they never break through. But achievers reverse it. They train their mind to rehearse success until it feels inevitable. They see themselves already living the outcome. They feel it, they breathe it, they believe it, and because of that, their brain and body find ways to make it real. You have to understand, the mind doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. That's why visualization is so powerful. That's why holding a crystal clear vision and obsessing over it every single day rewires your brain. It creates certainty. And when certainty rises, hesitation disappears, fear loses its grip, and the actions you take become bolder, more consistent, effective. So ask yourself, what vision are you carrying inside of you? Is it one of strength, abundance, and success, or one of limitation, scarcity, and fear? Because whether you realize it or not, your dominant thoughts are planting seeds. Those seeds are growing into the results you're living right now. If you don't like the fruit, you've got to change the seed. If you don't like the outcome, you've got to obsess over a different input. I'm telling you, the moment you master your mind, your life changes. When you decide that no matter what, you will hold on to that vision until it becomes reality, everything begins to shift. Opportunities show up that you never noticed before. People come into your life that align with your mission. Energy rises within you that you didn't know you had. It's not magic. It's the natural consequence of obsession, clarity, and belief. So if you want to know where your future is headed, at the thoughts you're obsessing over right now, because the future doesn't show up by accident, it shows up by design, and the design begins in your mind. That's why the greatest shift you'll ever make is not external, it's internal. It's not about waiting for the right chance, the right time, the right resources. It's about becoming the kind of person who refuses to let doubt dictate destiny. It's about taking control of the conversation in your head and choosing a vision so powerful that it pulls you forward no matter what life throws at you. Because success will always start in the mind before it shows in reality. Clarity is power. Out it, you're drifting, wandering through life, reacting to whatever shows up instead of creating what you actually want. Think about how most people live. They wake up, they go through the motions, they chase after what's urgent instead of what's important, and then they wonder why years go by without anything truly changing. It's not that they don't have potential. It's not that they don't have desire. It's that they don't have a clear, compelling vision that pulls them forward. High achievers are obsessed with clarity. They know exactly what they want, why they want it, and what it will look and feel like when they get there. And because they're so clear, they move with a level of certainty and intensity that most people can't even comprehend. Their vision acts like a magnet. It pulls them through setbacks. It keeps them on track. When distractions come, it gives them the kind of energy that ordinary people call obsession. But obsession is only unhealthy if you're fixated on the wrong things. When you're fixated on growth, contribution, and building a life that matters, that obsession becomes the fuel that ignites everything. The problem is most people's vision is fuzzy. They say things like, I just want to be successful. But what does that mean? Success to one person might mean having freedom. To another, it might mean financial security. To someone else, it might mean creating impact. If you don't define it, you can't create it. That's like saying, I want to go on vacation, but never picking a destination. You'll waste all your time and energy spinning in circles, and you'll never arrive anywhere meaningful. Clarity turns wishful thinking into a plan. It turns energy into direction. It transforms your life from randomness into design. Once you get clear, really clear, you'll notice something powerful. Your mind starts filtering everything through that vision. The same way your brain tunes out most of the noise in the world until something relevant to you shows up, clarity allows you to see opportunities others miss. When you know where you're going, your decisions get sharper, your actions get bolder, and your energy gets amplified. You've probably heard the phrase, where focus goes, energy flows, but what people don't realize is that focus is only powerful when it's attached to clarity. If you focus on fear, you'll magnify fear. If you focus on doubt, you'll magnify doubt. But when you focus on a clear vision, precision and detail, your energy flows into something that creates momentum. And momentum is everything. Once momentum is built, it's hard to stop. That's why the most successful people often look unstoppable, because their vision gave them focus, their focus gave them momentum, and their momentum made them unstoppable. Clarity also gives you emotional fuel. Think about the last time you felt stuck, unmotivated, or drained. Chances are you weren't clear about what you wanted. You were just trying to get through the day. But when you're working toward a crystal clear vision, something inside of you comes alive. You wake up with energy, you go to sleep with excitement. Even the hard days feel meaningful because you know what you're building toward. That's why achievers don't need constant motivation from the outside. They're pulled by the vision they've created on the inside. Clarity isn't just about the destination, it's also about the reason. You can have the clearest picture in the world of what you want, but if you don't know why you want it, you won't last. The why is what gives depth to your drive. It's what keeps you going when it's hard, when it's painful, when it feels like nothing is working. If your vision is clear, but your why is shallow, you'll quit the moment it gets tough. But if your vision is clear and your why is unshakable, nothing can stop you. Here's the mistake many people make. They try to create clarity from the outside in. They look at what society says success should be, what their friends are doing, what's trending, and they build a vision around that. But that kind of vision doesn't last because it's not truly yours. True clarity comes from the inside out. It comes from asking yourself, what do I really want? What would make me proud of my life? What would make me feel alive every single day? You answer those questions honestly, you stop chasing other people's definitions of success and start pursuing your own. Once you get clear, you've got to lock it in. Write it down. See it every day. Speak it out loud. Condition it into your nervous system until it becomes as natural as breathing, because clarity isn't something you create once and forget. It's something you live with every single day. The clearer you make it, the more powerful it becomes. You condition it, the more inevitable it feels. And when something feels inevitable, you move differently. You stop asking if and start asking how. You stop wondering if it's possible and start figuring out how to make it real. That's why high achievers don't wait for opportunities to show up. They create them. Their clarity sharpens their vision so much that they can see pathways where others see dead ends. They can see possibilities where others see problems. They can endure struggles because their mind is locked on where they're going, not on where they are. Think about it like this. If you were dropped in the middle of a desert with no map, no compass, and no idea which direction to go, you'd probably wander until exhaustion set in. But if you were dropped in that same desert with a map, a compass, and a clear destination, suddenly everything changes. You still have to endure the heat, the exhaustion, the difficulty, but at least you know where you're going. You can keep moving step by step because your vision keeps pulling you forward. That's the difference clarity makes in life. Most people are wandering without a map. Achievers know exactly where they're headed. And when you have that kind of clarity, you don't just survive setbacks, you use them. Every failure, every rejection, every obstacle becomes feedback, not finality. You don't take it personally. You don't let it destroy you. You simply adjust and keep moving. Why? Because you know where you're going. When you're crystal clear on the outcome, temporary setbacks don't shake you. You already see the finish line. That's the gift of clarity. It creates relentless drive. You no longer need to push yourself because the vision pulls you. And when the vision is strong enough, the discipline feels natural, the sacrifices feel worth it, and the journey feels inevitable. That's the mindset of high achievers. They don't rely on chance, they don't wait for permission, and they don't settle for average. They get clear, they lock in, they move with relentless drive until the vision in their mind becomes the reality in their life. Because clarity of vision doesn't just guide your steps, it transforms your destiny. If there's one truth every high achiever understands, it's this: pain is not the enemy. Pain is the teacher. Pain is the very thing that shapes greatness. The difference between those who rise and those who crumble isn't whether or not they feel pain. Everybody feels it. Everybody experiences failure, rejection, disappointment, betrayal, loss. The difference is what you do with it. Average people run from pain. High achievers run into it, embrace it, and transform it into power. Think about your own life for a second. Some of your greatest moments of strength didn't come from the easy seasons. They came from the struggles that forced you to grow. They came from the heartbreaks, the failures, the times you thought you were done. And yet somehow you kept going. You didn't just survive those moments. You became more because of them. The pain carved something out of you. It built resilience, determination, hunger. It lit a fire you wouldn't have found any other way. Most people waste their pain. They use it as an excuse. They let it become the story they repeat over and over. I can't because this happened to me. I failed because life is unfair. I'll never be enough because of what I went through. And once that story takes hold, they start living in chains. But achievers, they tell a different story. They take the very thing that broke them and use it as the reason they must win. They turn their wounds into weapons. They transform their scars into strength. That's why the most powerful people you'll ever meet are rarely the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who walked through fire and refused to stay burned. They're the ones who faced rejection after rejection, failure after failure. Instead of collapsing, they said, this is not where it ends. This is where I begin again, stronger, sharper, hungrier. Pain is life's way of testing how badly you really want it. Anybody can be positive when things are going well. Anybody can act motivated when the path is smooth. But when life punches you in the gut, when you lose something you thought you couldn't live without, when everything you've worked for falls apart, that's when your true character is revealed. If you can take that pain and say, this is not happening to me, it's happening for me, you unlock a level of power that few ever touch. The reality is, pain can either be the thing that paralyzes you or the thing that propels you. It can become a prison or it can become a platform. It all depends on the meaning you attach to it. High achievers don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, how can I use this? How can this make me better? Can this fuel my vision instead of destroy it? That shift in meaning is the difference between quitting and conquering. Think about some of the greatest stories of success. Again and again, you'll find a common thread: struggle. Most driven people often came from nothing, from broken homes, from poverty, from rejection, from trauma. They didn't succeed in spite of their pain. They succeeded because of it. Their hunger was born in the struggle. Their resilience was forged in the fire. And once they learn to channel that pain, nothing could stop them. And this is something you need to hear. Your pain has a purpose, but only if you give it one. If you just sit in it, if you just complain about it, will rot you from the inside out. But if you take that same pain and let it sharpen your focus, deepen your drive, and fuel your obsession, it becomes the very thing that launches you to the next level. I want you to imagine for a moment if every setback you've ever faced, every disappointment you've ever carried, every heartbreak you've endured was actually a gift. What if it was the universe handing you the very material you needed to build the strength for your future? If every single struggle was shaping you for something bigger than you can see right now, if you choose to see it that way, your pain no longer controls you, you control it. This is why high achievers don't resent their struggles. They don't sit around wishing life had been easier. They're grateful for the fire because they know without it, they wouldn't be who they are. Without the pain, they wouldn't have the perspective. Without the loss, they wouldn't have the hunger. Without the failures, they wouldn't have the wisdom. They understand that pain is the ultimate catalyst for growth. But here's the key. You can't just experience pain and expect it to magically transform you. You have to consciously decide to use it. You have to lean into it, face it head on, and extract the lessons. You have to take control of the story you tell yourself about what happened. Because the story you attach to your pain will either chain you or change you. If the story is, I was broken, I'll never be whole again, your life's stuck. But if the story is, I was broken and that break gave me strength I never knew I had, you'll rise. The same pain, two different stories, two entirely different outcomes. The choice is always yours. So when life hits you, and it will, remember this. You don't have to run from the pain. Don't numb it, don't deny it, don't bury it. Face it, feel it, then use it. Let it be the thing that drives you to prove to yourself and the world that you're unbreakable. Let it give you the kind of relentless drive that no one can understand unless they've been through it themselves. Because the truth is, the people who win at the highest level aren't the ones who avoided pain. They're the ones who mastered it. They learned to flip it on its head, to take every wound and turn it into wisdom, every loss and turn it into leverage, every failure and turn it into fuel. That's why nothing can stop them. The more pain they experience, the more unstoppable they become. So don't waste your pain. Don't let it be the excuse that holds you back. Make it the reason you rise. Make it the fuel that feeds your fire. Make it the power that propels you into the future you were born to create. Because in the end, the greatest victories are always written with the ink of struggle. The greatest strength is always forged in the fire of pain. Discipline is the real currency of success. Not talent, not luck, not even intelligence. Discipline. Because at the end of the day, you can have all the big dreams, the perfect vision, the greatest intentions. But if you don't have the discipline to follow through consistently, none of it matters. Discipline is what separates those who talk about success from those who live it. It's the bridge between desire and reality. Here's the hard truth. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they don't do what they know. They fail because they let feelings dictate actions instead of letting discipline lead the way. They wait until they feel motivated. They wait until conditions are perfect. They wait until the stars align. And because of that, they wait their whole life. High achievers don't wait. They decide. They act regardless of how they feel, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of whether they're tired, bored, or uncomfortable. Their discipline drives them when motivation runs out. Discipline is about mastering the small, consistent choices that most people overlook. It's about getting up when you said you would, showing up when no one's watching, doing the work even when it's inconvenient. It's about training your mind and body to obey the vision, not your mood. Because let's be honest, your mood will lie to you. Your emotions will try to talk you out of greatness. But discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline says, I'm doing this because I said I would. And that's where power is born. Think about the people you admire most, the people who achieve at the highest level. They aren't always the smartest or the most gifted. Many times they started with less than everyone else. What they had was discipline. They did the work day after day, year after year when others quit. They pushed through when others made excuses. They practiced when others slept. And because of that, they earned results that others only dream about. Here's what people get wrong about discipline. They think it's about punishment or deprivation, like it's this miserable grind where you strip away all joy. That's not true at all. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is power. Discipline is the ability to direct your life instead of being dragged around by your impulses. It gives you control. It creates confidence. It builds momentum. And when you master discipline, you don't feel trapped. You feel unstoppable. Look at any area of life, fitness, business, relationships, finances. The people who thrive are the ones who build discipline into their habits. Success is never about what you do occasionally. It's about what you do consistently. Eating clean once won't change your body, but doing it daily will. Saving money once won't build wealth, but doing it month after month will. Showing up to practice once won't make you a champion, but doing it relentlessly will. Discipline compounds. Small things done consistently create massive results over time. And here's the beautiful thing about discipline. It's not something you're born with or without. It's a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. Every time you follow through on a commitment to yourself, you build trust. Every time you resist the temptation to quit, you build strength. Every time you do the hard thing when you don't feel like it, you're teaching your brain that you are in control. That's how discipline grows. Now, this is where people sabotage themselves. They overcommit. They try to completely reinvent their life overnight. They set 100 goals, build impossible routines, and then wonder why they crash after a week. Discipline doesn't come from intensity. It comes from consistency. Start small, but be relentless. Win the first battle, then the next one. Prove to yourself that you keep your word. And as you stack those wins, your discipline becomes unshakable. Let's talk about sacrifice for a moment, because discipline is often painted as this painful thing that robs you of enjoyment. But the truth is, you're always sacrificing something. Either sacrificing your comfort now to build the life you want, or you're sacrificing your future by staying comfortable now. Either way, there's a cost. Discipline is simply choosing the price of progress instead of the price of regret. And regret is far heavier than discipline will ever be. What's powerful about discipline is that it doesn't just shape your results. It shapes your identity. Every time you follow through, you're not just doing the action, becoming the kind of person who keeps promises. You're becoming someone who's reliable, consistent, trustworthy to yourself and to others. And that identity shift is what makes long-term success sustainable. Because once discipline is part of who you are, you no longer have to force it. It becomes automatic. And here's the truth. You're already disciplined. Everyone is. The only question is, what are you disciplined about? Some people are disciplined about hitting snooze, scrolling endlessly, making excuses, and avoiding discomfort. That's discipline too. But it's discipline in the wrong direction. The key is to redirect that same consistency toward the habits and rituals that align with your vision. Because when your discipline matches your obsession, success stops being a question of if. It's only a matter of when. Think about this. Discipline is the equalizer. You can't control where you started, but you can control how disciplined you are. You can't control how much talent you were given, but you can control how much work you put in. You can't control whether life throws obstacles your way, but you can control whether you show up every day with discipline. And over time, discipline beats talent, discipline beats luck, discipline beats excuses. It's the one currency that always pays dividends. But here's the thing. You can't borrow discipline. You can't outsource it. You can't fake it. You either live it or you don't. And life has a way of revealing the truth. Your results are the receipts. They're proof of what you've been disciplined about. And if you don't like the results you're getting, it's time to change the disciplines you're living by. So if you want to create extraordinary results, stop asking for motivation and start demanding discipline. Motivation comes and goes. It's fleeting. Discipline is permanent. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired, if you're scared, if you don't feel like it. Discipline says, do it anyway. And that mindset, practiced over time, builds an unstoppable force. Because in the end, ones who achieve the highest levels of success aren't the ones who had the easiest path. They're the ones who had the discipline to keep moving no matter what. They're the ones who refused to negotiate with their vision. They're the ones who showed up day after day, year after year, until the world couldn't ignore them anymore. Discipline is not just the currency of success. It's the proof of obsession. You can't build an extraordinary life in an ordinary environment. You can't expect to rise when you're surrounded by people who are comfortable staying low. The truth is, your environment is either pushing you forward or pulling you back, shaping your thoughts, influencing your standards, quietly dictating what you believe is possible. High achievers understand this. That's why they're ruthless about who and what they allow into their space. They don't surround themselves with excuses, negativity, or mediocrity. They surround themselves with standards that demand more from them. Look around your life right now. The people closest to you are either reminding you of your greatness or reinforcing your limitations. Either challenging you to stretch beyond what you think you can do, or they're comforting you in staying the same. Here's the thing. Most people never realize how much of their potential is being suffocated by the standards of their environment. You can have the biggest dreams in the world. If you're surrounded by people who constantly tell you it's unrealistic, eventually that voice gets in your head. You start shrinking your vision to match their comfort. High achievers flip this around. They deliberately place themselves in environments that raise the bar. They seek out people who are playing the game at a higher level. They're not intimidated by greatness. They're inspired by it. That inspiration fuels their drive because it normalizes success. When everyone around you is operating at a high standard, you stop seeing excellence as exceptional and start seeing it as expected. That shift changes everything. The truth is, mediocrity is contagious. So is excellence. If you spend enough time around people who make excuses, you'll start making them too. If you spend enough time around people who quit when it gets hard, you'll start lowering your standards as well. If you surround yourself with people who don't settle, who demand the best from themselves, who refuse to accept average, you'll be forced to rise. Not because they tell you to, but because you won't want to be the one dragging the group down. That's why the most successful people invest so much energy into building the right circle. They know that proximity is power. Who you spend time with is who you become. If you want to achieve more, you've got to put yourself in environments where more is the standard. If you want to grow, you've got to spend time with people who are constantly growing. If you want to win, you've got to be around winners. Here's the challenge. Sometimes that means letting go of people who can't or won't grow with you. And that's hard because some of those people might be friends you've known for years, family members you love, colleagues you've built relationships with. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring about them. It simply means you stop allowing their limitations to define your life. It means you choose to love them, but not to limit yourself for them. This is where so many people get stuck. They know they need a higher standard, but they're afraid of losing approval. They're afraid of being misunderstood. They're afraid of outgrowing the people they care about. Listen, if you're constantly shrinking your dream to keep others comfortable, you're not serving them and you're not serving yourself. The best way to inspire those around you is to rise, to live your vision so boldly that it shows them what's possible for their own lives. High achievers are unapologetic about their standards. They don't negotiate them. They don't bend them to fit in. They hold themselves to a level that makes average people uncomfortable. And because of that, they attract others who operate at that same level. Like attracts like, discipline attracts discipline, hunger attracts hunger, excellence attracts excellence. Before long, the people in their circle aren't just encouraging them, they're pushing them, challenging them, holding them accountable to something greater. This is why so many breakthroughs happen when people get into the right room. You've probably experienced this at some point. You were around someone who was living at a level you thought was impossible, and just by being near them, your own belief system expanded. You walked away thinking differently, dreaming bigger, acting faster. That's the power of environment. It changes what you think is normal. And this is something you need to hear if you're serious about success. You can't afford to spend most of your time around people who accept average as enough. You've got to curate your environment with intention. Read the books that stretch you. Listen to the voices that challenge you. Spend time with people who won't let you settle. Put yourself in places where growth is expected. Because your environment will either reinforce your excuses or reinforce your standards. The reality is, it's easy to find people who will let you off the hook. It's easy to find people who will validate your comfort zone. If you want to reach the top, you don't need easy. You need accountability. You need people who won't let you stop when it gets hard. You need standards that force you to rise. That's how greatness is built. So ask yourself honestly, what are the standards of the people around you? Do they challenge you? Do they push you? Do they inspire you? Or are they making it easy for you to stay where you are? Because the quality of your circle is the ceiling of growth. If you want to break through, you need to raise that ceiling by raising your environment. The truth is, we all become a reflection of the standards we allow around us. If you're around people who tolerate excuses, you'll tolerate them too. But if you're around people who demand excellence, who expect results, who live with hunger and drive, you won't settle for anything less. And that, more than anything else, accelerate your path to success. Because in the end, high achievers don't just surround themselves with people, they surround themselves with standards. And those standards become the foundation that keeps them moving, growing, achieving long after motivation fades. One of the greatest misconceptions about success is that it happens fast. People see the highlight reels, the end results, the awards, the wealth, the recognition, and they assume it must have happened overnight. The truth is, success is rarely an explosion. It's almost always a slow burn. It's built brick by brick, decision by decision, day after day. The people who rise to extraordinary levels of achievement are the ones who have learned to fall in love with the long game. They're not just chasing the rush of quick wins. They're building something that lasts, something that compounds, something that expands over time. And the key to playing the long game is belief, not shallow belief that collapses the first time things get hard. Not temporary belief that only shows up when everything is going right. Talking about an unshakable belief that no matter what happens, no matter how many obstacles show up, no matter how long it takes, they will find a way. That's the anchor that keeps them steady when storms come. That's the fire that keeps them moving when most people would quit. Because let's be honest, the road to success is not straight. It's not clean. It's not simple. It's full of setbacks, failures, detours, and disappointments. It's full of moments where you question yourself, moments where you wonder if you're wasting your time, moments where it feels like nothing is working. And this is where most people tap out, not because they lack potential, not because they lack resources, but because they lack patience and belief. They expect quick results, and when they don't see them, they give up. High achievers see it differently. They understand that every step, even the ones that don't seem to work, is part of the process. They don't expect perfection, they expect progress. They don't get discouraged when it takes longer than they thought, because they've already committed to the long haul. They know the game they're playing is not about weeks or months. It's about years, decades, even a lifetime. That perspective changes everything. Think about it. When you're playing the short game, every setback feels like the end. You lose once, you think you're done, you fail, and you think it's permanent. But when you're playing the long game, setbacks are just steps. Failures are just feedback. They're not proof that you can't. They're proof that you're in the process of becoming. That's the mindset of someone who is truly obsessed with success. They don't measure themselves by the scoreboard today. They measure themselves by the vision they're building for tomorrow. Here's where belief becomes everything. Without belief, the long game feels unbearable. Without belief, every delay feels like punishment. Without belief, you'll quit before you ever see the fruit of your labor. But with belief, real, shakable belief, you can endure anything. You can work when no one is watching. You can sacrifice when there's no applause. You can stay focused when others get distracted. You can keep planting seeds even when the soul looks dry, because you know harvest is inevitable if you don't stop. This is the defining difference. High achievers don't just believe in the outcome. They believe in themselves. They believe in their ability to adapt, to grow, to figure things out, to keep going no matter what. That belief is like armor. It protects them from doubt, from criticism, from setbacks, and it's contagious. When you're around someone with that kind of conviction, you feel it. You can see it in their eyes, feel it in their voice, feel it in their presence. They're unshakable. And this is something you need to lock into. If you're serious about building something extraordinary, you've got to anchor yourself in belief that goes deeper than circumstances. Because circumstances will change, results will fluctuate. Some days you'll feel like you're winning, and other days you'll feel like you're drowning. But belief is the constant. Belief is what keeps you steady in the ups and downs. Let me be clear, belief doesn't mean blind optimism. It doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means facing reality and still choosing to persist. It means acknowledging the obstacles and still deciding to move forward. It means knowing that you may not have all the answers today, but trusting that you'll find them as you go. That's what makes the long game winnable. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year. They massively underestimate what they can do in 10. They want quick results. And when they don't get them, they quit before the real payoff shows up. The people who play the long game understand that the compounding effect of consistent action over time is unstoppable. Small actions repeated relentlessly create massive momentum. One step may not look like much. Take enough steps in the same direction, and you'll find yourself in a place you once thought was impossible. And here's the beauty of the long game. While others are chasing shortcuts, you're building foundations. Others are looking for hacks, you're developing mastery. While others are burning out, you're compounding strength. That's why when your results finally show up, they last. Because you didn't just chase success, you became the kind of person who can sustain it. So the question becomes, do you have the patience to play the long game? Do you have the discipline to keep showing up even when it feels slow? Do you have the belief to keep going when there's no proof yet? Because that's the real test. Success isn't just about speed. It's about endurance. It's about persistence. It's about staying the course long enough for your work to bear fruit. Let me tell you, when you finally get there, when the seeds you planted years ago finally bloom, when the sacrifices you made finally pay off, the vision you've carried for so long finally becomes reality. It won't just be about what you achieved. It will be about who you became in the process. And that's something no one can ever take from you. Because at the end of the day, high achievers win not because they're the fastest, not because they never fail, not because they're lucky, but because they refuse to quit. They believe, they endure, and they play the long game until the game is theirs.